gonna throw this old debate this frisbee at the disc golf course and see which one lands in the disc net.
And I'm going to talk about me, myself, and my problems here for a little while.
The Rule 34 questions were last week.
That's not a puzzle, it's pushing blocks.
If a wave of dragons are coming to raise my town and burn my crops, that's pretty awful to me directly.
But I want to hear about your other shitty characters.
Of course, invest in a robotic Flava Flav.
This is the Debate This podcast.
Welcome to Debate This, a show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong. In this podcast, we take time out of our busy adult lives to argue over the important things like comics, video games, and how frustratingly cool the Hammer Brothers are as a Mario enemy. But for real, they're so cool. My name is Todd Thomas, and I'll be your moderator for today's long overdue discussion about superpowers. Aside from varying degrees of tightness in their spandex outfits, it's the superpowers that separate godlike heroes and villains from us helpless mere mortals. Over the years, we've become desensitized to how absurd and destructive some of these abilities are. So I've called in some favors to assemble an expert panel to debate over what would be, in fact, the most horrifying power for a comic book hero or villain to wield. Unfortunately, all those experts were super busy, so instead I have Matt Sideburns Cole, Andrew Mutton Chops Henderson, and Kyle Pencil Thin Upper Lip Stash Harper. Guys, give me just a little taste, a little something something of what you brought to show and tell today.
All right, before we get any further, I can't let Hammer Brothers slide. It's Hammer Bros, right?
Yeah, it's Hammer Bros.
Well,
It's Hammer
let's
Bros.
Like
wrap
Mario
the podcast.
Bros.
We tried.
You don't say the Mario Brothers.
Well, I say Mario
Yeah.
Brothers. Everyone has
Mario
said Mario Brothers.
Mario Brothers is
You took
acceptable.
the wind out of Kyle's argument against
Yeah,
me real quick.
all
You
right,
chopped
this
him out
is-
at the knees.
It's bad. No, it's Mario Bros. Like it's Super Smash Bros.
All right. No, Matt, tell
Super
us
Smash
things.
Bros would have been a
Matt,
way
no,
better
stop.
argument.
I-
Matt, go ahead.
Wasn't even really caught up on the Hammer Bros thing. I was caught up on the interesting fact that none of our nicknames even remotely close to resemble our actual facial hair that we have. But the image of
No, wait, stop. No, Kyle for years has had a pencil thin upper lip
Yeah,
stash, and I'm surprised you haven't noticed it.
That's what we
I'm
called him
s-
in college.
I'm still not allowed to go to some playgrounds.
Okay, we're
okay, so
Matt, why don't you just go ahead and kick it off
speaking
here?
of things that are physically horrifying, one thing often let off of comic book dialogue is the pure shock of the actual physical mutations of the heroes. And like, some heroes are lucky enough to look human. Even Storm and Kitty Pryde and maybe even Cyclops with the right pair of Oakleys could just blend into the masses of normies and humans. But some heroes have disgusting external bone protrusions, like my girl Marrow, and that's the superpower that I'm going to talk about today. Literally so horrifying that she was confined to the sewers in a universe where monsters like Beast, Colossus, and Todd's favorite, Beta Ray Bill, all exist. Extraskeletal bone protrusions. Debatably sexy, unendingly horrifying.
You had to put the sexy line in there, didn't you? You couldn't leave well enough alone.
I think you had a clerical error in that you didn't put debatably sexy before Beta Ray Bill, but that's okay. I think you just had your personal kind of notes out of line. That's all right. So we've got bone protrusions. I like it. Andrew, what are you bringing?
So to me, when I watch the Marvel movies, specifically X-Men, my opinion, the most powerful mutants are the ones that have mind control abilities. You got Professor X, Jean Grey, Emma Frost. On the villain side, you've got Kilgrave, and I can't think of any others right now, but they're really, really scary. So I wanted to go in the mind control route, but specifically the idea of suggestion and literal overriding thought. The mind is the most powerful and least understood part of our human body. Our brains have absolute control over how we interpret data, how we sense the world, and how we take in visual information. So what happens if you can't trust what your brain is telling you? That to me is an incredibly horrifying thought, that the thing that I'm seeing isn't actually there, or the thing that I think isn't actually true. So when I think about, to me, what is the most horrifying potential power, I think of the Scarecrow from the Batman series. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of a twist on this because I think the Scarecrow is a very silly gimmick, and that could be a lot cooler. But the idea is the Scarecrow uses this fear toxin, right, to create fear, to incite fear in his foes. So he doesn't actually have any powers. He just uses the literal essence of fear to get people to panic and essentially do what he wants.
I like the Scarecrow from the Batman cartoons because he's really a scarecrow.
Yeah, and he's like, doesn't he have like a?
This has been a statement Todd has made about something.
Doesn't he have like a weird British accent too? He's like, "Hello, everybody, I'm a scarecrow."
He does.
I think the Scarecrow falls in the same category as the Vulture. Like, it was just gimmicky enough that you're like, it's fine.
But like Hobgoblin from
the Scarecrow in Batman Begins is so cool.
Everything in Batman Begins.
And then they brought him back,
and he's Cillian Murphy.
Well, then they brought him back in the third one, the third one, and you were like, you didn't need to be here.
Yeah.
All right.
I love the Scarecrow. I love the iterations of him in the movie, and I love the Arkham game iterations of Scarecrow as well.
I like it. I didn't play that, but that was a game that I heard was good. Kyle, bring us home on this intro.
By Todd. So let me set a scene for you guys. Paint a word picture. It's late. You're walking home. You're taking that shortcut through the alley, It's dark. You feel someone following you. Something feels off. You look up and you see a man floating in front of you. You turn to run, but you feel something grab at you. You break free. Your hurried walk turns into a run, when all of a sudden, things just seem to be trying to block your path. Street signs, cars, fences, and even the pavement you're running on seems to be betraying you. But you get away from these, and you think you've escaped, and your backpack or your pocket just explodes with wires, and they wrap around you, lifting you up, just start to squeeze you tight till you can't breathe. And you look up at your last image, and you see
Shia LaBeouf.
Dangerous cannibal Shia LaBeouf. But you see Magneto, or just someone with the power of controlling magnetic objects. We live in a world made of metal. It's everywhere. You can't get away from it. And we're moving more and more towards it. And someone with Magneto's powers would be godlike, unable to be stopped, able to shape and warp the world around you, going so far as to block your calls, intercept your messages, send you fake messages, and even use the iron in your blood to control you. Imagine a god living among us that you couldn't detect because he looks just like everyone else. Be terrifying.
I really like what you all have done today, because we've got one thing that is just physically horrifying because it's manifesting bone monstrosities.
Protrusions.
Protrusions is a word we're going to say a lot today.
It took me a long time to figure out a name for this power, and I landed on protrusions.
Okay.
So there we are.
So we've got bone protrusions. We've got mental suggestion. So
I'm going to say Inception.
Okay. So the complete opposite of physically horrifying. And then we've got this, you're not safe because it's all around you kind of horrifying. So I'm really interested to see you guys break this down. So my first question for you, every hero or villain has their origin. Every Peter Parker is bit by a spider. I don't know what happened to Miles Morales. I'm also assuming it was a radioactive spider. If only we had the answers at the internet. The Hulk was exposed to gamma radiation. Daredevil was blinded by acid, and that turned him powerful.
The same acid that made the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Is that canon?
What? That is canon. That is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle canon.
Are you serious?
Oh, Jesus.
Dead serious.
Well, so the point being that what is every hero or villain has their radioactive spider, the nuclear waste explosion, their parents being shot in front of you. What was the thing that happened to you that gave you your powers? How did you get these abominations?
Well, Todd, See, I'm beautiful in my way.
Shut
Because
up.
God makes no mistakes.
All right.
I'm on the right track, baby. I was born this way. And that's what makes this also uncomfortable. This grossness is unavoided, right? This is a mutation. Which, if I learned one thing from my research for this episode, it's that the 155 X-Men that you have never heard of should just never be discussed again, because they are all horrifying and horrendous. But I think Marrow kind of takes the cake, because she was literally born as a bony porcupine ball. I don't
Protrusion?
really know.
Are we just gonna cram protrusion in everywhere?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, happy day, my child is being born. I wonder if it'll be a girl or a... Oh my god, what is that? That's probably how that happened. Also, probably hurts too, to give birth to. It shit's like Bone Sonic.
It's a bone Sonic. Good.
Yeah, so I think I was born this way, man. That's that.
Like, did you? No, you go first, then I'll go.
Okay, one question comes to mind.
Sure.
Bone Sonic v Metal Sonic.
Probably the metal one is my guess.
Don't take ideas from future episodes. That's a gold mine.
Next week on Debate This. Bone Sonic versus Metal Sonic.
The second thing, who was the character in X-Men 3 The Last Stand who turned into a porcupine? He was like, was that... Oh,
Urchin, I think. I think it's
I think it's Urchin.
So, how is
Urchin sounds right.
Is he like this one? Marrow?
No, I mean, like, Urchin's a lot like,
Urchin and Spike are a lot more
they're like,
in
Spike,
control
maybe.
of it.
what's the horror character? Why can't I think of his name? Pinhead. They're like Pinhead. It's very, very limited,
okay.
very CQB. That's close quarter combat, close quarter battle for those of you who don't FPS.
Sure. He hugs people to death, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's like a frag grenade versus like a cactus, and Marrow is the frag grenade, where Urchin is the cactus.
All right, so you were born with these frag grenade powers. Andrew, what about you? How did you manifest your dark seediness here?
So I think I was probably born with this, at least in some fashion. So kind of like, think about like if Harry Potter took a real dark, like there some sort of like trauma would trigger it. But in Harry Potter world, it's just like an adult yelling at him. But so this would be like in the gritty reboot of my character, it'd be some sort of like attack on a loved one or something where my character would feel like an immense amount of fear, and that fear would project onto the attacker. And then all of a sudden they'd be like, oh, and back off. And that's kind of how I would start. And then I think I would probably use that for evil, obviously, because there's not a lot of good superheroes that use mind control for good, save for Professor X. So I would probably train that to like then turn it into projecting other emotions, like making people, maybe feeling really happy and making you feel happy for like a second, or pretending to feel really sad and start crying, and then see what that works, and then maybe level it up to some narratives like, oh well, if I think I have a spider on my back, then I'll project that on you, and you'll start freaking out because you think you have this giant spider crawling up your back. Stuff like that.
So we've got born with it, and induced by trauma. Kyle, what about you?
Wait, hold on a second, Kyle. I just want to. So you get back into a corner and squirt fear juice.
Exactly.
Because I think you said you projected fear onto the people in the room. Something like, so you just. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that we were at the squirt fear.
Well, he just doesn't. He doesn't project it. He secretes it.
Oh, so it's just. Is it again the death by hug thing?
Worse.
I think
I've got to rub on.
I think you could probably take it in a couple directions. I hadn't figured out what the physical manifestation of it is. I don't hate secreting fear juice. I'm not opposed to it.
Put that in the intro. That's the new one. I don't hate secreting fear juice.
I think, yeah. So comparing this to Scarecrow, that would be my version or my brand of fear toxin.
It's more of a fear spore.
or a fear sweat.
Yeah. But in my mind, it was more of just like a mental projection. So like more or less like a telepathy, but still like fairly close range.
Gotcha.
At least at first.
So Kyle, for you to bend street signs, where did that come from?
So, like Matt and Andrew, this is a latent, born with ability, but it laid dormant until around my teenage years, like many mutant powers do. So around 13, I started noticing like phones would start just bricking, just being completely useless, and like my video games would just all the data would be gone.
That would be a horrible teenage experience.
That's the
wouldn't
worst.
Wouldn't it be terrible?
That's literally what happened to Samsung in 2016, where phones were exploding. So I mean, here we go, we're close.
Yeah.
But they really came like full force when I was being picked on the playground, and I wrapped my bully up in the chain link fence that he was pushing me into. Went inside, threw desks and chairs around, seemingly without any. I wasn't touching them. I wasn't, seemingly with my mind. And I ruin electronics, so you can't call 911. I can seal the doors shut. It was pretty great for a young villain. Pretty great young villain origin story.
for an adolescent villain such as myself.
Otherwise known as the Summer of Kyle.
Yes.
Well, so you've all got your powers, like big whoop. All right, that's super cool. And you've kind of started to allude to how they work. And you've kind of started to answer my second question, so we're going to jump into it. So I want you to detail to me how your powers work at a very micro scale, like local level. You are sowing discord and fear to the local town and village around you. How are you fighting back against the local militia, the police? How are you holding this small village hostage, very micro level? What is the very first levels of things that you did to get your name out there as a villain? When you were trying to be the sticky bandits, what were you doing?
Okay, so at the very base, most micro of levels,
when you broke bad,
my existence horrifies the locals. I mean, look at me on all my bone protrusions. I'm gross. I'm very, very unnerving to look at. I really am. And if you're like, oh, I don't know, it might be kind of cool, you just Google image search marrow. I would add the word Marvel at the end of it. You're going to get some confusing results if you don't. And tell me that it's not kind of horrifying looking. So at a very base level, I exist to scare people. All right, so let's go.
And confirm horrifying.
Exactly, right? So let's go some quick hits here. I have bone protrusions. I control how and in what shape they grow. That is part of the power. I want spikes on my shoulders. I get those. I want spikes on my eyes. I get those. But the thing of it is that the main core spikies and the shoulder pads, the elbow horns, the typical things, what you call typical in this world, don't go away. They're out all the time. I don't have the special Wolverine power of pulling that shit back in. So there's that. Body armor, yeah, I can do that. Bone knuckles, check. Hedgehog spikes, check. Knives and swords, hell yeah, fucking right. That brings me to my second point. I can pull the bones out of my body and use them to fight and stab some shit. That is... What?
Are you always nude?
Me? No, I'm not always nude.
What kind of pants
you
are
always
you wearing?
nude?
I just have strong...
That was a very personal question, Matt.
I have
Thank you for answering.
Strongly woven clothing. I also sensed a hint of optimism in Andrew's question. Are you nude? All right, anyway, perfect. So, I can pull them out and use them to stab some shit. That's real. That's canon. End of story. Also, this is Marvel. So all that shit regenerates because that's Marvel's thing. Everybody loses something, don't worry, it grows back. No problem, it grows back. Human Torch dies, he grows back. It's fine. Cut your arm off, we'll grow it back. It's okay. So that's part of the part. This is part of the thing with this power, is that when I pull that bone out, the skin just kind of closes the hole until I pull another bone out of there, which, again, very gross, very horrifying. And speaking of regeneration, bone protrusions take a lot of extra biology to grow. I have 2 hearts. I just do. It's canon. And if you don't believe me, you can check Uncanny X-Men first series, number 325, released in October of 1995, where Marrow, the character that this power is based off of, has one of her 2 hearts ripped out by Storm to stop the nuclear bomb that's attached to it to save the city. And then they leave her to die in the subway, and she comes back 2 issues later because she has a second heart, and it regenerates the first heart. So I have 2 hearts.
And because it's comics and no one ever does.
Exactly. But, obviously I've lived a life with all these powers, so I'm good at them. I've got speed, I've got strength, I've got agility, I've got all that nonsense. Because I have lived for at least 25 years with bone protrusions sticking out of my body, which does not lead to an exciting social life, but leads to lots of basement karate and watching of many YouTube videos about how to do it.
I don't know. I bet you would have done pretty well in like a punk scene or like like the pre-emo scene. Would have probably
except you would have like gone to a concert and then people would want to mosh with you and you would have murdered like 10 people.
Exactly. Yeah, that
You're right.
like that.
Never mind.
Great in a punk scene imagery could probably be a model. Could definitely not associate with other people in a close situation.
You're murdering people at a club while Kyle is scrambling unscrambled porn.
I've only got, I think, one question out of your answer, Matt. When you said it takes a lot of extra biology, is that how we use that word? Isn't biology just the study of life? Is that how we fit?
Well, if you talk about like somebody's biology, I mean, that's a word that I've heard used in something else before. I don't know. I was a communications major. I don't know shit about science, Todd.
You're just turning nouns into verbs.
Yeah.
That's how things work in 2018. You have Google, you have Netflix as a verb, you have fair. Biology as a noun that describes more than the study of science.
You need an answer, just go ask Jeeves it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay, can I talk now?
Please.
No.
Okay, great. All right, so nobody likes having their mind controlled. Like, I think we can all like safely say that as a baseline. Like, nobody really is down with that. So naturally, safe to say, I'm not gonna have a lot of friends. As soon as people, as we saw from that classic Twilight Zone episode, everyone's going to be afraid of me right off the bat. It doesn't matter if I use my powers for absolute good. People are going to fear me. So obviously that will affect me in a negative way. I won't be able to get that sweet college internship at the ripe old age of 21. I won't have any prospects. So how am I going to make a living? How am I going to get money? There is no system secure enough on this earth that it doesn't have some kind of manual override. I don't have to even give the people in charge direct commands. All I really have to do is just put them into a panic enough that they'll choose to do whatever I want them to do. That bank vault with tons and tons and tons of cash being guarded by 3 security guards, all I need to do is make them think they're trapped in a burning building. Boom, done. Money. That high-ranking politician with all of the direct connections, I just make him think he's being held at gunpoint, and then I save him like a hero. Influence, done. That mob of temporarily lucid civilians trying to run me out of town, well, now they're being attacked by the flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz. Done. That's it. That's all I had.
Yeah, but now you're the guy. But now you're the guy who they think summons flying monkeys. That can't be good further down the road.
Yeah, I don't know, like, how horrifying can mind control be when, like, you don't, I mean, are you going around telling people, like, oh, that was me fucking with your brain? Or do people just kind of think that shit happens and then you just, like, slink off? Like,
I think at first, well, yeah, I think that's probably part of my evolution at first. Like, if I'm a little kid, I'm standing outside a candy store and, like, want a candy really bad and another kid just like kills himself by accident, then like, yeah, I'm probably not good at hiding myself, but I probably have learned to have learned to mask my identity a little better, a la Kilgrave and Jessica Jones. So in the flying monkey situation, I don't know. It's a coin toss. Maybe I want them to think. Maybe I want them to fear me and think that I am in charge of said flying monkeys.
So, not to poke holes in your argument, but that's what we're here to do. So, like, this high-ranking politician, what happens then tomorrow when he checks the news and doesn't see a single headline about him being held at gunpoint? Because you only made one person think he was held at gunpoint.
I would
what
like
happens
to
when those
stop
guards
you from
run...
answering this question before you say, well, I actually did hold a high-ranking politician at gunpoint.
And now we're on a watch list.
I didn't really think that far, but I think really what we're saying about this character is he's really just like a act first, think later kind of guy, a shoot first, ask questions later kind of fellow. I would imagine that he doesn't stay in one place for very long.
Oh, he's a drifter, a con man, if you will.
A bit of a drifter, a bit of a one-time player, if you will.
See, because I've got a little broader scope for my powers. I can. We're starting small. Say I'm taking on some small time heists or whatever. I control electricity, so I can kill the lights, go in, unlock any door because they're all metal. Open the vault. If it's super complicated lock, just rip that vault door right off, lift all the money up, and walk out. And if anyone tries to stop me, good luck, because your guns mean nothing to me. I am a metal god.
What about if they just walk through the metal detector and they don't have any metal on them?
They don't have... I mean, I can throw other things at them. It's not like... They don't exist in a vacuum.
we're talking about like petty level theft here. He could rip like the Snickers bar metal container to the right into like severe barbs that can kill anything.
Whip them with that pole that has the velvet ropes that you have to walk through to get in the bank line. Like I said earlier, there's metal everywhere. I'm not worried about having stuff to throw at you. So as I move on from that and do bigger heists, I can get into electronic crime and like fraud and like route money to me because I can get in there and just make the little connections in my computer, do whatever I want. Make the connections in your electronic banking, wire me all your money, Mr. Warren Buffett. That's a good millionaire, billionaire.
Buffett.
I don't think you know how hacking works.
Simply put, I am a magnetic god among you insects. So I can, again, just do whatever I want, as big or small, because everything we do is metal or electricity or something I can control. And you have to go pretty far off the grid to be somewhere with no metal.
Well, so you three have painted a pretty good starting line, so you being petty criminals. But that's not what we're here to talk about with your horrifying powers. And so I want to talk about the macro scale. Like what is the world-ending threat that your powers bring? So the best example that I can give, and one of my personal favorites is, in The Last Airbender, skilled waterbenders learn that they can dial it up to 10 and they become bloodbenders, which is fucking horrifying. And they can rip blood and mangle blood out of people's bodies. So what happens when you take your powers to threat level midnight? What is the... Yeah, that's a sick Office reference. You're welcome. What is the omega form of you using your powers? And in the United Nations roundtable, when your face pops up on the screen, what are the threats that you're laying out before the world's, I guess, leaders, and you're saying, no, you're going to bend to my will? What are you doing?
Okay, so I would like to take us all on a visual journey here in this audio podcast. And I'm going to take that visual journey right to Google Images. So, if you are not familiar with Digimon, please take this minute to search for Skull Greymon and get a quick picture.
Pull your car
please
over
pause
and
the
go
podcast.
ahead and do that.
Please pause the podcast. Go watch at least the first arc of Digimon, and then watch the rest of it because you're
Holy
hooked
shit.
and it's incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
And now that you've done that and you're back, Matt, please continue.
Yeah, so after that, go to Google Images again and search for Marvel Marrow and look at the third picture that comes up. And it is one of the most famous cells from any Marrow comic book appearance. That is Marrow exploding with bones with this crazy, scary, demonic face. Yeah, right? Uh-huh. Yep, everybody getting that now? She's sort of got the Doc Octopus thing.
It was the sixth picture to
Yeah,
me.
that was
It
also my sixth
Oh,
hit.
did you search Marvel Marrow or Marrow Marvel?
Marvel Marrow.
Oh, that's my bad.
Marrow.
I said it backwards. It's the third if you do Marrow Marvel. If you do Marvel Marrow... Yeah, it is the sixth. Okay, that's my bad. My bad.
We'll publish an errata later.
So, anyway, like, that is sort of her ultimate fit of rage in comic book canon.
Shit.
That was right after she got her powers back to her, and she found out that the process it took to get her powers restored also killed the baby she was pregnant with. Because I don't know why anybody thought that wouldn't happen, but yeah. So she explodes in a fit of bona fide rage and kills everybody in the room in seconds. A mutation like this is going to give you a terrible sense of self-control and absolute rage, and it's going to make it really hard to control your emotions because you've been a horrifying, ugly bone Sonic for however long you've been alive. So the angrier you get, the bonier you get. Let's talk about the density of bone. Let's all remember that for like the first 100 years of Wolverine's life, he had no adamantium and still fought in 4 different wars and did very, very well for himself. Also canonical that many other characters like Sabretooth have used mutant bone density to absolutely rise to the upper ranks of the superhero echelon. So if you're talking about a character made almost entirely of bone who can very easily change her form, can warp armor around herself easily, you're going to have basically a indestructible cannonball made of bone that is very scary, really pissed, that is also very sharp, and can take out pretty much anything. End.
This picture is so fucking cool.
Yeah,
It's really awesome.
I've gone into a deep dive on Marrow Google Images.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she is great.
Yeah, I really wasn't listening to what Matt said because this really superseded everything. So
That's
Cool.
okay.
I mean, to be fair, I was listening to what Matt said, and these pictures really sum it up. Like, I think the one thing that I picked up on from some of those pictures is she also used it as armor. Also, I got the answer of what his clothing can and cannot do. No, it'll tear.
It will tear. It will
Yeah,
definitely
it'll tear.
But so the biggest thing about Marrow too is that she's like super indestructible. She's jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge twice and faced next to no damage. I mean, she is super regenerative, super bulky as far as density goes, just because of the bone mass, and she behaves and moves a lot like a Wendigo from Until Dawn. If you've played that game, yeah, she's honestly very creepy, very creepy.
Yeah, I'd say creepy is pretty fair. I'm trying to realize and figure out how she's holding the world hostage, and all I can think of is her growing really big bone spikes and rolling around like the Katamari Dynasty game and just like spiking things.
I mean, definitely possible, but like the long and short of this is you have something that's really scary and really hard to kill.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Listeners, please do get on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and tell us how improperly Todd pronounced the name of that game, because
it's
I'm
really
pretty
improper.
sure it.
It
Also,
was a lot of,
um,
I guessed on every consonant.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but there's a lot of over sexualization of this bone monster.
Yes, there is.
Is this because you searched
Well,
for the words bone monster?
Yeah, you have to take off Rule
Damn it, that was
34
my
when you
first
search
mistake.
for it.
I need to stop doing Google searches for bone monsters.
So the United Nations just got an interrupting Skype call to Marrow Skype call. It is you, Andrew. You're cutting in. How are you holding them hostage?
to my my compadres here earlier credit, I have only been focused on the here and now. So in my mind, the way to really level this up and add the level of horror is digging deeper into the brain. Right now, I've only been focused on the immediate, inciting immediate fear, inciting immediate emotions. But what I want to do to really fuck people up is dig deeper into my victim's subconscious. Not only will you run screaming from whatever the current threat is soon enough, you'll start to forget other things. I'll take your memories, I'll take your hopes, your dreams, your entire sense of self. And that's when it really truly gets horrifying. You won't even know that you are you. This power at its worst could break someone to a near catatonic state. So I don't care how many bone monsters you've got against me. I can make Bone Monster 1 stab Bone Monster 2 in the chest just from a quick suggestion. I can make Bone Monster 3 hop off the Golden Gate Bridge for a third time. And I can make Bone Monster 4 forget that they're a bone monster and think they're a hug monster. And kill everyone they've ever known.
Question: What about Bone Monsters 5 and 6?
Well, we didn't account for those.
Once he gets to 8, it's too many bone monsters and he gets overwhelmed.
He actually starts back over. Well, good. So you're gonna make. Sorry, I'm still hung up on Hug Monster. Is what I'm stuck at. So
I'll make Matt's over sexualized bone monster think she's a hug monster. And anytime she tries to touch a loved one, they die.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Not so funny anymore, huh?
No. I don't think it was ever really funny, to be honest, but okay.
What really inspired this was, did you guys see the Black Mirror, the last season of Black Mirror? Like not the most recent, but the season before when Netflix bought it?
I have not, no.
I did not.
No. What episode are you referencing?
Well, there's an episode that a guy plays like a horror video game.
Oh, yeah.
I did watch that one.
Yeah, right. And it's all about dementia, and like he's like his deepest fear is turning into his mother, who's like just wrestling with dementia. And he plays this like super realistic VR game, but it's supposed to like dive into like, his deepest, darkest fear. And his fear is like losing his sense of self. So like he's like, I'm not afraid of anything. And they do like the standard, like he's trapped in a haunted house and there's like a big monster or whatever. But then at the end of it, he's just like, it F's with his brain so much that he's just like, I don't know what's real and not. And he's just like in the corner, like hugging his knees saying like, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like every time I think about that, it's been years since I've seen that. Every time I think about it, I still like get really uncomfortable. So that was my inspiration with this.
That deep, unsettling feeling that it leaves you with.
Yeah.
Well, so Kyle, bring us home then. So when you are now you're maintaining, conference with the world's leaders, and they have their headphones and their interpreters, and the leader of the United Nations, whoever that is saying, no, you can't hold us hostage. How are you doing it?
So you want to talk about threat level midnight. You want to talk about turning powers up to 11. Magneto has been there. He is one of the few alpha level mutants, which means that when you break his powers down all the way and you get full control of the powers, he can control fundamental building blocks of the universe. The powers of magnetism and things on the electromagnetic spectrum are things Magneto has controlled. And we've gotten to see him do this a few times in the comics and in the movies even. He's been able to control light and cast illusions because light falls on the electromagnetic spectrum. In the cinematic masterpiece X2 X-Men United, we got to see Magneto ripping the iron out of a guard's blood so he had enough metal to escape a very expensive, very specially crafted metal-less prison. And in the comics, Uncanny X-Men number 534.1, Magneto kept the city of San Francisco erect through a massive earthquake. Just used his powers to keep all the buildings up, keep everyone alive. I'm not entirely sure why he was a hero in that story, but he was, because he's been around forever and they ran out of villainy things to do with him. But Magneto, the powers of magnetism are nearly limitless in their abilities because they are so fundamental to physics. So I would do all that. Level a whole city just to show that I can do it and make you bow to my whim. In the Ultimate Comics, the Ultimate X-Men series of comics, he destroyed New York City with a massive tidal wave. It's really anything you can think of, unless you get that mind control helmet off of him and stop him that way. Magneto's gonna do it, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
So we are at everyone's favorite point in time in this show, and that is when we do the super secret bonus question.
Woo!
And so now that we've talked about you as the villains, what your powers are, how you hold the city hostage, what it is that you do to threaten the world, I need to hear about the other side. So you are obviously the villain, but I want you to tell me who is the hero of your story. For every Red Skull, there's a Captain America. For every Joker, there's a Batman. For every odd number of speed-related enemies, there's always the Flash. There's just been.
You didn't think of a third one, did you, Todd? You thought you'd be able to wing it.
I've not watched a lot of the CW's Flash, but I just know every season it's like a new speed-related bad guy, huh? All right. But no, so you are the villain, but who is the hero? Who foils your plan? Who does that local town erect the statue of? And I want to know, how do they keep beating you? What is it that they keep doing to foil your plans every time that you have to keep coming back?
I would like to point out here that while Kyle and Andrew both picked villains, Marrow is actually a hero. She's not a bad guy. In this situation, I'll give it to you. We've been talking about holding the town hostage. Fair. So I see the parameters of your question, but I just want to put that out there. I'm a scary good guy, not a scary bad guy.
That Google image search you led us to would definitely say otherwise, but we're just gonna keep going.
It was definitely a gray area.
I mean, all the people that she killed in that were from Weapon X, and Weapon X is really bad anyway. That's who turned Deadpool into Deadpool and turned Deadpool into Stitched Mouth. Lots of powers, Deadpool.
That was Fox.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A different evil entity. And somehow scarier.
So honestly, what we've seen to be the best foil to Marrow as a character in the comic books has been either a love interest or those who can change her appearance. She does have a pretty long-standing stint with Spider-Man in a universe where Mary Jane is believed to be dead. Because, it's one of those... Spider-Man dates everybody. Because either Mary Jane's alive, Gwen Stacy is alive, or they're both dead, and he's dating whoever else is next to him.
Dating everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So, Spider-Man could be a good option. There have been a number of characters who have worked with Marrow to teach her more control of her powers and give her the ability to improve her appearance. There's like a whole arc of sexy Marrow where all the bones go away for a little while. That's where the questionably sexy part comes from in this. There is like a chunk of Marvel comics where like, oh, Marrow's hot now. Everybody wants to talk to her. But I think
all the bones go away.
Never change comics.
I think that the real answer is probably Wolverine, if we're being completely honest. And I think it's Wolverine for a couple of reasons here. One, yes, we know adamantium is stronger than bone. Wolverine has one of the fastest regenerative times in comic book history. So chances are there's not going to be a whole lot of damage that can be done to Wolverine as long as he's like, I don't know, X1 Wolverine and not Logan Wolverine and on his last breath. There's also the whole canon in Marvel that Wolverine has been mentoring Marrow for years and years to try and teach her to control her power and to control her rage. But at the end of the day, they're just two really similar characters. It's the tormented outcast versus the tormented outcast. And so if you're going to make me pick another hero to take out my hero, I think it's probably going to be Wolverine.
It's fair, I like it. So what about you, Andrew? Who is the hero of this story? Because your character is absolutely not the hero.
So when I think about the times that Batman has beaten Scarecrow, it's always like a physical thing where they circumvent, they dodge the gas somehow. He's wearing a mask, he gets behind him or whatever it is.
It's very gimmicky.
Scarecrow's not a super fleshed out character. So what I was trying to improve on was the idea, okay, it doesn't have to be necessarily a physical toxin, it could be a mental projection. So aside from the idea of just like getting behind him and choking him, I think back to the episode of Futurama where all the brains take control of Earth, and Fry is the only one who can stop the brains because his brain is too small and he's too stupid to understand their influence. So I think the mortal enemy of my terrifying villain would be someone who just cannot comprehend what I am trying to project onto their brains.
It's Pete, what's his face from the SNL sketch where he's like, all right,
sweet, yeah,
sweet,
exactly,
cool,
yep. That or like an android or something, but that's super boring.
You are in the side of the comic universe where Cyborg exists.
Does Cyborg have a human brain or is he a programming? Because I thought he was a human with
half and
augmentation.
half.
I gotta tell you, I have not watched a single DC movie in a long time, and I know he was in the most recent one, and I watch
I watched Teen Titans like 15 years ago.
Yeah. The last DC movie I saw was Suicide Squad, and that was not again.
Yeah, nope.
I feel like I'm gonna just jump right out here and say I think he has a human brain.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have to be like a T-1000 situation where it's just like all programming, no mind. Is
the Terminator Marvel or DC? I
it depends on the day.
Dark Horse.
Dark Horse. If it's not either, it's a Dark Horse.
All right, Kyle, what do you got?
So, I mean, this is pretty easy. There's only been one guy who's reliably been able to beat Wolverine and magnetic powers, and that's Professor X. Wolverine can stop, or not Wolverine. Did I say Wolverine earlier?
I really love what you were thinking is you're like, wow, who couldn't beat Magneto? It's Wolverine. Please don't say Wolverine. Don't say Wolverine.
Magneto can, he can create shields. He can keep out. He's created magnetic barriers to keep out gases and toxins and all that comic bullshit laser shield that they use to explain it away. But the only way that you've reliably been able to beat him is get his mind control guard helmet off and zap him with a mind blast. That's it. It's something not physical is the only way to stop these powers, because anything physical in the physical world is he's gonna give you a bad time.
If there's one thing that Magneto's known for, it's giving you a bad time.
Just causing a bad time.
Didn't they put him in like that plastic penitentiary in the old movies?
Yeah, and he's broken out of those like 9 times.
Did you not hear one time?
Did you not hear
semantics?
He's broken out of it twice in 2 different movies.
Mm-hmm.
Did you not hear my earlier point about taking the blood out of a guard to break out of the specially crafted prison? Even your perfect prison is imperfect.
Yeah.
So,
well, all right. So you've given me some answers. I don't know if they've all been good answers, but they've been answers. And so
absolutely not.
What I need to do now is I need to put those answers in my patented Debate This Plinko board and let them plop on down and see whose answers get the most Plinko chips. And so
Todd, you're really picking references that you can't flesh out.
Gonna throw this old Debate This Frisbee at the disc golf course and see which one lands in the disc net. So while I'm doing that,
do another one. Do badminton. Make a badminton metaphor.
No, wait. I'm gonna take this old Debate This high-lie thrower,
right,
and I'm gonna throw the
Let's say nice things now. All right, so it's my turn.
It's closing statements. God damn it! Why does no one remember them?
I will not make a choice until I hear some really good closing statements, and I hope they're really good.
Thank you. Good Lord, if I had to bring up closing statements for another week.
Jesus.
All right, so listen here, Todd. I want to bring you back to the question we asked at the beginning of this the question we asked at the beginning of this podcast, and that was, which superpower is the most horrifying? Now, I want to read to you the definition of horror, because I think that is
Webster's dictionary defines horror
as an intense feeling of fear, shock, or disgust. Fear, shock, or disgust. Now, if you see a slightly attractive but also kind of alt-looking girl approach you, and then all of a sudden she explodes into a bony spider monster, would you feel fear, shock, and disgust? I think that you would. And I would like to read you the second definition of horror, which is a bad or mischievous person, and that is what Marrow is. And she's very mischievous. She is very, to herself and her own goals and her own missions, because she has lived her whole life hidden in the sewers, away from the eyes of the world. Because if Marrow has these powers, or if I have these powers, or if whatever world you're living in, if you are around someone with bone protrusions of all shapes and sizes that can never be fully removed from the body, you're terrified and you're terrifying. That is the end of the debate in my mind. But let's talk about these other two real quickly. Scarecrow, biggest weakness, attack from behind.
Choking.
And Magneto, I get it, man. He's strong against a lot of things. But you know what there isn't any metal in? Bones. There's no metal in bones, Kyle.
We're gonna need a science person to weigh in on that one.
He has extra biology.
Weigh in on that one.
Because 80% of the iron in the blood is in the red blood cells and in the muscle cells. And while it is canon that Marrow has 2 hearts, it is not canon that she has any extra blood. Her blood just moves faster.
And I always, to be honest, I always thought that was no. I'm agreeing with Matt. I always thought that was a pretty loose definition of pulling the metal from your blood. Because how are they defining metal? Is it like synthetic? Because to me, it's always been defined as like synthetic created metal, like created at a foundry, not like the periodic table of elements. Like, I'm going to pull all the carbon out of your body. Like, that's something else entirely.
And in X2,
so first of all,
in X2, Rogue shoots him in the butt with more iron. He has extra iron.
It's Mystique,
I'm
one.
Sorry.
And 2,
I misplaced my sexy Marvel characters.
A majority of your blood, your red blood cells are made in your bone marrow. So, check and mate, it's even in your name. Bite me.
They are made in and then distributed elsewhere. Red blood cells don't sit in bone marrow.
But they're made there. We're splitting hairs. If it's made there for a period of time, there is a high concentration of red blood cells in the marrow, meaning that is where most of the iron is going to be. Bite me.
But if it's there for a period of time and it's just what's being created, and it takes extra iron injected into the butt of a security guard for Magneto to pull any iron out, then there is no way that the little bit of blood inside of bone marrow
You said it yourself. You've got extra biology. That means extra blood.
I just said It is canon that I have 2 hearts, but not extra blood. It's canon.
Wait, I wanna weigh in on this because I found some official internet answer. I googled a series of things. 1 is iron metal. 2 is blood iron metal, and I was redirected to https://nickelj11.iamascientist.org.uk.
Sounds legit.
And they actually settled this debate back in 2011. That the iron in your blood is the metal. It's just very, very trace amounts.
And that's the iron in your blood, not the iron in your bone marrow. I can stab you in the throat with bones because you can't control them. I win. I fucking win.
No, you lose, sir.
Well, you'll have a chance to respond after Andrew tells me nice things about his closing statement.
Nope, we're not on nice things yet. We're still closing
I wasn't going to
statements.
say... I knew what I was getting to.
Here's the nice things about my closing statement.
Yes.
The idea that my thoughts or memories might not be my own, that the things that I think are real and the things that I perceive are actual, the fact that if I, for a second, believe that those aren't real, what else is real? What's fake? What is a dream? What is reality? These are the kinds of questions that if that starts to unravel, you will literally lose your sense of reality. Every superhero, I don't care how many bones they have, I don't care how much iron in their blood they have. Every superhero needs to know that they have powers. They need to know how to use their powers, and they need to remember that they actually have powers to use. If I can make Magneto forget that he can shape metal, he's just a hobbling old man with a helmet. He still has a helmet, but he doesn't know how to...
He really likes chess. He's really liked chess every time Professor X has wiped his memory.
He's just a fun old man at the park playing chess. You know, if I can make what's your name, Mallow? No, Morrow. Sorry. If I can make Mallow,
bean machine takes it.
If I can make Mallow think that he's a clown, no. If I can make Morrow forget that she has bone protrusions, she's just gonna think she's a normal girl.
How? No.
And that's Go ahead. Go ahead. No. Let me hear it. Let's talk about bones more.
I don't know that you can make me forget that I have bone protrusions.
I said I can. Therefore,
it's not Nintendo.
Source me.
Airtight logic.
Source me visited August 23rd, 2027, 2018. I didn't know what day it was. That's fine.
I have bone protrusions. I can either look over at them and see them.
We know that you have a lot of bone protrusions when you look at Morrow, because there's a fine line between fear and horniness with you.
We've heard the word protrusions
that is
a lot.
Bold. That's mean. You know, that's just mean.
No, don't even listen to him.
So I want to point out, we made it an hour.
Monster earlier.
We made it an hour and 14 minutes into this recording, full of talking about a character with bone protrusions before anyone made a boner joke. And I gotta say, good job, guys.
Yeah, that's really the effort here. If we had the Pee-wee's Playhouse siren, it'd be going off right now.
I'm so tired because every time I heard bone protrusions, I had to turn off my microphone to giggle like a little child, and then turn it back on.
All right, can I pass the ball to Kyle now for his closing statement? Can we end my suffering?
So, think of the last time you weren't around any metal at all. It probably wasn't in your lifetime.
Yeah, I was in an open field, and I dropped my sword and my shield, and I put on my bow. Oh, sorry, that was Breath of the Wild.
So, you know, even if you leave your phone at home and check to make sure you aren't wearing pants with a zipper and took all the change out of your pocket, there's still metal in the foundations of buildings and sewer lines and power lines that run all across every inch of the developed world. So you'd have to fall pretty far off the grid, living in a log cabin in the middle of nowhere, and you'd still have the iron in your blood, Matt.
Blood. Blood. Not bone marrow. Blood.
And that iron in your blood will betray you to my magnetic mastery. That's all I have to say. You are never safe.
Well, now that we've done what I think is an important part of the podcast, but Andrew disagrees, let's do Andrew's favorite part of the podcast, where you all get to say nice things about your horrifying and God-forsaken powers that you've given yourself to control the universe, or the world. We'll say world, because I don't know if you can control your universe with some of this shit.
So, yeah, I think that we all picked really good characters here. I mean, there is no denying that both the prospects of mind control and metal control are scary. I really don't like Scarecrow because he was a dude who dressed like a scarecrow and squirted fear juice onto people.
He's such wasted potential.
Exactly.
I hate that character so much.
Right? Like that is an amazing power.
Yeah,
like the power of fear
idea.
And projected fear is great. It's really good and it's really scary. I mean, same with Magneto. Like Magneto has proven time and time again. I'll never forget the first time watching the X-Men movie where he like zaps Wolverine T-posed up against the back of the subway and starts to spread his claws in opposite directions.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. It was like, the first two movies were pretty good, and that was definitely one of the better parts of those first two movies. So yeah, I think good job, guys.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, Magneto is probably, if not my favorite, top 3 X-Men. I mean, God, he's...
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, he's just like, he's one of those, like, he's such a deep character, and he's almost always written well, excluding The Last Stand, because that movie never happened.
Yeah.
And like, he's got such a good character outside of his superpower, but his superpower, I mean, I alluded to it earlier, it's funny because it's like something that was written in the 60s that was like, oh, this might be neat, but as time progresses, it becomes more and more, like you mentioned, like, you know, changing computer systems and stuff. Like the guys that wrote that never considered that.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like, oh, there's some steel and stuff, like whatever. But his power actually becomes more relevant as time progresses and our society evolves, which is a really interesting concept compared to most. And then Morrow is really interesting. I mean, like most of the characters that Matt brings up, I've never heard of, but that's really cool. I hated that little urchin guy, that's why I brought him up earlier. But that is the first instance of that kind of power that I've seen that was actually interesting to me. So yeah, great job, guys.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything super original here, but yeah, Marrow was very in the spirit and very much in the direction I was thinking of going to. You know, she's a Morlock, right? Lived in the sewers because they were too ugly to live on the surface. Group of mutants, like just like super shocking imagery is a great answer to the question. It's a great, like, terrifying, dangerous power. Like, would when we were prepping for it, you asked the question, what would scare, you know, the clerk in aisle 11 at Kroger? And I think out of all of these, if that suddenly manifested while you were checking out in the grocery line, would be the most, like, would get the biggest reaction.
Unprovoked,
and
like compared to ours, yeah.
Yeah.
And Andrew, the idea of, you know, stripping a person down to nothing is terrifying. Just the idea that you can unmake someone because you can influence their brain in that way is a great like application of those powers if you're looking at it from that way, and like it's a very, very creative answer to the question.
Thank you.
So kudos.
Yeah, I would like to add 2 things real quick. Thing one is that we Vance Dieseled it again. His name is Quill, not Urchin.
It was Vincent Diesel.
Yeah. Second off, just one more thing that I would like to add as a good thing for Magneto has been both Ian McClellan and Michael Fassbender. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's right.
Just portrayed by incredible actors.
Yeah.
His Michael Fassbender, the scene where he like grabs the knife, throws the knife, drinks the beer. Like
that to me, it's like the weakest application of his powers, but also just one of the coolest.
Yeah.
Just style points for days.
Yeah. I just also didn't get to bring up that Marrow's in the MCU now, kind of.
And what is she in?
She cameos in Deadpool. There's a cameo of her in Deadpool, which I think a lot of people are thinking is going to warp in after the Fox buyout. So
because she became a member of X-Force. Which she perfectly fits in line with like all the degenerate heroes that would align themselves with Deadpool. Like, what's your power? I can spear people with my bones. All right, you're in.
Yeah.
We really need someone to do a good job of digging into the X-Men, because there's so many good characters that aren't Wolverine and Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like I honestly liked X-Men First Class. I know it was kind of a weak movie, and it left a boatload of like canon plot holes, and they just ended up retconning a bunch of stuff, but
yeah,
it was cool to see more characters than just Wolverine.
I had always heard that First Class was supposed to be a Magneto origin story before they like decided to not go strictly.
Yeah,
hey, but that's a conversation for another time.
Without getting too far into it,
I gotta tell you guys, I took the debate this cricket ball, and
that's 5 metaphors.
I threw it overarmed.
Save a couple.
I threw it overarmed at the stump, which was at either end of the 22-yard area called a wicket. And I think
spent our whole good vibes portion looking up the rules to cricket.
Oh my god! And I don't know anything. There's diagrams and everything, and I don't know anything. So no, I think you all did a really good job with this. If I would have thought up 3 powers of my own, it wouldn't have been, I think, any of these. You also did a good job of making them horrifying at like a micro and a macro level, in varying degrees of horrifying. So
hooray, we're dark.
It made me feel things. So I guess I'll work my way through this. So, unfortunately, Kyle, I'm not giving it to your Metal Magneto powers. I think they're really, really good. But, one, when you said that he would like rearrange, wires in a computer and your phone, I don't think that you nor Magneto have a computer science degree to figure that out. Also,
that's your hang up here.
Also, nope. Point number 2, Kevlar, not metal. And point number 3, Magneto was beat by Kelsey Grammer once. So I don't think that I go with Magneto and his metal powers today.
Wait, you're counting beat by Kelsey Grammer as a bad thing? I see that as the only person strong enough to beat him was acclaimed actor Kelsey Grammer.
Fraser did it. Oh man, and so I was left with Matt and Andrew, just because Matt is so horrifying on a micro level that like it is the definition of like, holy shit, what is that thing? Oh, it's chasing me. Oh god. Like that is pure horrifying to me. And then Andrew's concept of making you forget your sense of self and everything is a lie. And so even though I wanted to not vote for him, I didn't want to give him the win because he tried to make us skip closing statements again. I'm going with Andrew.
Damn it! Damn
it!
Worst decision.
Absolutely.
But I have to say, like, there's just this really, like, not that we give second place trophies, but there's this really unsettling thought of Matt's character standing in front of the United Nations on a big screen and saying, oh yeah, well, me and my spiky bones are coming after you, and knowing that out there's one thing running around with big spiky bone protrusions like threatening the world. Like, to me, that's comical and horrifying. So, that said, thanks for listening to Debate This, and follow along in the argument on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at DebateThisCast, and let us know what you think, and if you have any other good sports metaphors. I'm Todd Thomas.
I'm Matt Sideburns Cole.
I'm Andrew Mutton Chops Henderson.
And I'm Kyle Pencil Thin Upper Lip Stash Harper.
Saying thanks for debating with us, and if you think we're wrong, then you can come fight us by the Swing Sex Nerds.
You said swing sex.
Swing sex.
Sex.
I'm not fixing it. Take it to print.